we had like 8% chance of winning the game, and we did. Like, when was the last time you had a game like that where you felt that way with, another coach other than Kirby Smart?
Welcome to My Got a Podcast. I'm Jim Wood. In this episode, my co-host John Powell and I review Georgia's come-from-behind 24-21 win over the Cincinnati Bearcats in the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl. As always, remember you can follow us on social media at My Got a Podcast, and be sure to check out our website at www.mygotapodcast.com. You'll find a link to every episode, as well as our merchandise store. Finally, if you like what you hear, please subscribe, rate, and review the show. If you leave us a review, you just might hear it on an upcoming episode. Now, let's join the conversation in progress. I don't know, did you see my text? Apparently this is our 25th episode.
Is it really?
Yeah.
I didn't see your text.
Yeah. So we've made it to 25 episodes.
Happy 25th anniversary, Jim.
That's right. It's a big one. It's a milestone. We made it. We did it. We made it. Hey, we made it through a season.
How did we do 25 when there was only 10 games?
We had, let's see. Well,
George Foster was an extra. Your Auburn friend was an extra. What else?
Game cancellation. So we had like 2 Missouri previews.
Oh, that's right.
And then we also had a season preview.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's was the difference there.
There it is. Makes sense.
Yep.
We just create the content and they just eat it up, man.
That's right. Exactly. Let's see. It was weird with this game. Like, I actually predicted like a higher scoring 3-point win when we did our predictions. However, I was still like hardcore freaking out. Like, I think like I said that as my score prediction, but I didn't really like believe it or something. I don't know. I ended up like not being prepared for it to be such a close game. And like, gotta give them credit. They were a lot better than I thought they would be.
They really were, man. The defense. I was texting my Bearcat friend that lives in my neighborhood, and he was like, yeah, dude. I asked him a couple of times before. I was like, hey, we know that there's going to be some offensive firepower going on because the quarterback and the running back are basically the storyline. But what are some other things that we could be looking for? And he explicitly said, we have good linebackers and we have good defensive backs. Like, our defensive backs are studs. And so looking back on the foreshadowing on that was like he basically was pointing to the defense is actually really good. And that actually panned out. And I don't know if you noticed it or not, but in the broadcast itself, I kept thinking, like, why do they keep showing their defensive coordinator over and over and over again? Like, they kept going back to their defensive coordinator on the sideline. And I just thought it was really strange. It's almost like he got more screen time. I didn't track it or anything. It's almost like he got more screen time than their head coach. And I told my buddy, I was like, I feel like that your defensive coordinator is probably going to get some looks at some bigger places. I mean, frankly, the head coach probably will at some point too. But the way that their defense played was outstanding.
Yeah, it was really good. And I had kind of said like, 3-3-5, like they're not going to be able to stop our rushing attack. And man, I mean, I don't know. Like, I felt like I don't know. Like, it seemed like we were kind of able to run the ball, and like especially Zamir White was running just hard. Like, he didn't have big numbers, but he had a lot of tough runs that maybe weren't for a lot of yards, but probably should have been less yards. like he made something out of nothing and got yards.
Yeah, there were definitely a couple of those.
Yeah, but I mean, we only had like 45 yards net or something. So I think the backs got 66 yards, and then we had some lost yardage from sacks to go in there. But they handled our running game pretty well.
Yeah, no kidding. And I think that was the biggest shocker of this whole thing. There were a couple of like surprises, I guess you could say, but the running game, the impotence of our running game was a pretty substantial like surprise to me. And frankly, we weren't able to control the game nearly as well as what I was expecting with the running game. And I do think that, you could say that it was the backs, but like you said, there were multiple times where our guys just absolutely made something out of nothing. And really, I think that the concern, and as we look to next year and things like that, like take a post-mortem on the season. I know we're probably going to do that in episodes coming up, but like the offensive line underwhelmed in this game, like completely underwhelmed. And it actually, in many cases, it overemphasized some of those problems. So like the fact that we couldn't keep guys away from JT Daniels over indexed on his ability in the passing game. So like I feel
Yeah.
like that he probably threw balls sooner. He wasn't able to step into throws faster. He wasn't able to really do the best that he usually does. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I feel like that because he was running for his life the whole time.
So you say that, and he did. I mean, I know we had some level of exchange going on with Graham on Twitter at one point, and I think he was just talking about like that he was just like a warrior, battling through that game. I mean, because he did take some shots. Uh, he had 392 passing yards in this game, which like I had to do a double check. Like I had pulled up the stats, like the stat sheet on Georgia Dogs, and I saw that and I was like, that can't be right. So I like went on to like the score, like the app that I usually use, and looked on that, and yep, 26 to 38 for 392 yards. Like it didn't feel like that, and like before the game, we had a listener question like or it was my dad actually. It was like total yards in the game, and we were saying like 500 for Georgia. And we had a little bit less. We were close though. It was like 450 roughly.
We were pretty close.
Yeah, but and the way I had put it to make us feel better was like, well, like 300 yards passing, 200 rushing, something like that. I mean, we had actually there were 404 yards passing because let's not forget that the mailman did have to come in for a play when Daniel's helmet came off. And I will say, the mailman delivered, got us some pretty key 12 yards. Although I think that was the play before we did failed to gain on 4th and 1. But
Stetson had the highest quarterback rating in the game.
That's right, 1 for 1 for 12 yards. But yeah, so that was interesting. And actually, let me run back through our predictions really quick since I just hit on one of them. We both took the over in the game, which we were both incorrect there. It was way lower scoring than I thought it would be. I think that's a testament, though, to the defenses of both teams. I'll say that. Let's see. Game score, you went 43-31. I went 31-28. Again, we were both a lot higher scoring than actual at 24-21. I had the margin right, but that's about all I could say there.
Hey, man, that's saying something in this game.
Exactly. We both picked, we were guessing one tight end touchdown for Georgia. There weren't any. And then you took the over, I took the under on 10 snaps for LeCount, which it is amazing that he got one, which I know I didn't realize it. I don't think many did live speed as the game was going on, but there's the videos have come out now, and I mean you can see it on there. It's funny, you could actually see it when I rewatched the game. You can see they did show in the broadcast Kirby talking to LeCount. It actually made like a tight shot before they ran out there, but I was just like on edge, all nervous because I'm Munsoning. When they have 98 yards in 2 seconds, I'm still worried, kind of deal, because that's how I am.
Right.
But I said that he is up there with my favorite players ever. And if he got to play here, and he didn't disappoint. I mean, that just the image of him like sitting down on the ground after we had won is just, I don't know, it was awesome. I love that kid. I love him. He's one of my all-time favorites.
He really is, and I hope that he is an ambassador for the university for some time on the level of, I recognize that there, he obviously has the abilities, but it's not everybody's guaranteed to get as high a profile as Mecole Hardman. But Mecole Hardman is an ambassador to the university, even in his capacity as a stud, wide receiver for a big time team. So, and you see that across some other, like David Andrews, Ben Jones. You've got some of these guys that are very much big advocates of the university as they get to the NFL. So I don't know, seeing Richard LeCount get a play in was pretty awesome. And then like you said, that picture, I took a picture. I had to like go back. I was like almost, it kind of brought me to tears. I had to take a picture of it on the screen. The thought never occurred to me that there would probably be better quality pictures to come out. But I felt like I had to capture that moment because
Right.
it was just such a sweet moment. Because it was just a kid that had given his all to a university, and he was just taking it all in his last time on the field for them.
Yeah, it was awesome. I mean, I just got like choked up a little bit when I was just talking about it. So I
Yeah,
don't know. That's how I am. Yeah, I love him. He's awesome. And I think a while ago, right, he had said he's going to do the Senior Bowl, so which I think means he wouldn't be coming back. Um,
right.
so wish him the best. I don't know. I guess there's always time, but like we've said, I don't see many seniors coming back. One quick pat on the back for us. So when we had a listener question from Pain Dog around breakout players, and he asked for 5, and 2 of ours hit. So we'll forget the other ones that didn't hit so much. But we did say Darnell Washington and Arian Smith, and had some back and forth with Pain Dog on Twitter about that. I got super excited when Arian Smith made the catch, and I think I tweeted something like "We're Nostradamus" or something. So whatever.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
But how
if
about
we're
Darnell Washington though, man?
dude,
Wow.
when he was running over people, it was like, I think you tweeted it out from the podcast account, but I mean, my God, a freshman, like he was just running over people and getting by them, and like really, he had a shot. He had a shot to score there. Like if he breaks one
Yeah.
more tackle, he's probably going to score there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
That was
then
awesome.
and then Arian Smith, bless his heart, dude. I mean, I feel like that was a situation where like he had so much space to run that he outran the play basically. Like I don't know if
Yes.
JT Daniels just couldn't get it to him. I have to go back and look at that play specifically, because I don't remember off the top of my head. But you know, it seemed like that had he hit him in stride, because he had to wait on it. It seemed like he
Oh, he
waited
had to
on the
wait
ball
on it.
for a while.
Yeah, it was like a long time. Yeah, like it should have been. He was open enough for it to be a walk-in touchdown, but he waited. Had he not had to wait, it would have been.
Exactly.
I kind of noticed actually when JT threw that ball. Like if you think back to what Mississippi State, right? Like Mississippi State, his first game, the deep balls. Remember like how much he was putting into all those deep balls, and it was like his entire body. And you called out to me. we found that video where someone was saying he was like "Hiya!" like the kick, like JT Daniels had these like full
That was
body throws.
top billing, yeah.
Top bill, and yeah, he's like "Hiya!" like wait, puts his leg out. And like on the one to Arian Smith, it was very much more like reserved and controlled, and he kind of just like lobbed it. Like I don't know, it was almost like he was like, I don't want to overthrow him. I don't know. It didn't look like his other deep balls. I don't know if that was like a cautious trying to do that. Like I don't know, but it looked different. It wasn't like as like all out throw like we've seen him do. So I
So
don't know.
so I'm looking at it right now, and I can send it to you because actually I wanted to go back and actually like look at it while we were talking through this. Um,
Yeah.
I'll message it to you, but he actually has a really clean pocket. It wasn't rushed. It
Oh yeah.
was like he has a really clean pocket. There's no one that has a hope and a prayer of even like coming close to him, and he does kind of like lift his leg up just a little bit, but it's almost like he's like arming it, and
Mm-hmm.
he puts way too much air under it.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, man, dude, and these are the kinds of things that he's really only in his second year running this stuff. I mean, what was he? He was like
Yeah.
17 when he was at USC, so like he still has some developing to do. And this is the kind of stuff when we talk about like the difference between Georgia and Alabama, and the evolution of the Georgia offense is going to have to take shape in the form of excellent and superior and elite quarterback play, and excellent and superior and elite wide receiver play. Um,
Yeah.
he was very clearly the fastest person on the field. And
Yeah.
in the fact that he had to just wait for the ball to get there, still made the catch and made a big play. So like,
Yeah.
I think that this is the kind of things like for Georgia fans to like be thinking of is like, okay, what's the difference? Why can't we get over the hump? It's little things like that. So like Mac Jones hits, Jalen Waddle, he hits Devonta Smith, he hits those people in stride, and they're
Yeah.
walking into the end zone. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And that's the crazy thing, is to think that. I mean, it did the whole, like, it felt like he was a little bit off on the day, I would say, right? There were some passes
Oh,
that he missed, right? Like the 4th and 1 we mentioned, you
without
know?
a doubt, yeah. I mean,
So, and again, got to give their defense credit. Like I could say he was off due to the pressure that they put on him, right? But when an off game is 26 of 38 for 392 yards, like, holy cow. Like, imagine if he was on fire, right? Like, so if he hits Smith in stride, he hits Jackson on that 4th and 1 in stride instead of leaving a little behind them, which led to the incompletion. He hits Burton on either of those deep balls in the fourth quarter on the last 2 drives. Those could have both been touchdowns. Like, they were both open enough. I don't know. It's exciting to think. Which, by the way, I mean, it was a little cryptic, but today we're recording this Monday after the game. JT Daniels did tweet out a picture, or it wasn't a tweet, it was an Instagram. He had an Instagram post, just a picture, and it said, "Oh shoot, what did it say? Something about ready for more or something like that." Do you remember what it said? I'm blanking what it said. I bring it up, and now I can't remember what it said.
You're talking about JT Daniels' post?
Yeah, like his Instagram
To be
post, and said
continued.
like "to be continued." That's what it said. Yeah. So
That's,
I would assume that means I'm coming back.
yeah, I would think he was coming back. And, some of the other pundits were talking about, like, I think Ratty mentioned it, but like, he said that he was very cryptic in something that he mentioned and released to the public was, due to factors that will become apparent shortly, which
Yeah.
I don't want to get beyond us talking about this game, but like, we need to talk through that at some point.
Yeah, we need to. Yeah, yes, we need to. We need to. Next episode, we'll like predict what the heck that means. That's going to be in our predictions.
Okay.
So,
all right.
let's see.
So I do have a couple of other things. Like you mentioned that he was off.
Yeah.
Like there were multiple times. So there was a pass play to Burton where he should have caught him in stride. I think there was another pass play to Burton where at the end of the game, you and I were just talking about it, like where if he catches that ball and hits it in stride, like he probably scores the go ahead touchdown there. We don't need to kick a field goal, and it's just on our defense at the end. So like, on the one hand, like maybe we would have, if he'd have caught that pass, like maybe that we had left too much time on the clock because we ended up just kicking the field goal or whatever. But
it was the last play though, so there was like 7 seconds. My concern with that play was like if he had caught it right, and this is what the broadcast said. Basically, if he had caught it right where the ball was, and then he gets tackled, then you got to rush the field goal team out there, or maybe you spike the ball, whatever, something like that. But I feel like if he put a little bit more air under that one,
or you could fake an injury or something like that.
Yeah, like they did.
They did.
Really weird. That was really weird when they did that, right? Because like there's 15 seconds left in the game, and you're faking an injury. Like that was weird. And then they called a timeout. That was really weird. Anyways, whatever.
Yeah, dude. Anyway, so, but like you said, at the end of the day, like he had a really good game. Like he had a really strong game. When you're anytime when the rushing game is unable to get the job done, anytime when you literally are getting picked up off the ground multiple times. I don't remember how many sacks they had in the game against us, but like
3. I happen to have it up right in front of me. So yeah, 3 sacks.
3 sacks. Okay. It felt like he got hit a lot more, obviously. So I don't know if 3 sacks feels like, having watched the game, like 3 sacks just feels like a low number because it felt like that every other time, like he was running for his life. He was either getting hit after he threw the ball or he's getting hit while he threw the ball, kind of thing. And so
and there were a lot of hits on top of those 3 sacks for sure. Yeah. There were a lot of quarterback knockdowns and that kind of stuff.
Right. Or hurries or whatever you want to call them.
Yeah.
But so despite of all that, and then you've got the running game who really couldn't get a whole lot going. So the game really came down to JT Daniels. Like if he doesn't perform, then we lose this game in a blowout fashion, similar to what happened to us against Alabama, similar to what happened against us against Florida. Like we
Yeah.
just couldn't get anything going. And so like you're looking at a really tough loss again because the quarterback couldn't get it done. But in this case, he did get it done. And frankly, I'll be honest, I'm going to go out there on a limb and say like Mark Richt likely loses that game, in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, late career Mark Rick for sure. First 5 years, maybe, which everyone likes to bring up, right?
Right.
Let's see. I had a couple of things like Pickens. Not quite Sugar Bowl last year, Pickens, but pretty close. So he had 135 yards receiving, had a touchdown, 7 catches.
Big time game.
That's pretty awesome.
And one of his long receptions should have been a touchdown too. He had to
the diving catch.
He had to dive out for it. If he gets hit in stride, Pickens is off to the races.
Yep. And then something I loved, the second leading receiver in this game for us was Kenny McIntosh. So 5 catches, 43 yards, and a lot of that came on the final drive. He was money there. JT checked down to him. I think 2 or at least twice, if not 3 times in that final drive.
Hey man, we took what the defense was giving us, and you can that's all you can hope for. At least he didn't force the ball downfield and throw it an interception. That interception that he threw was also really unfortunate, but frankly, he probably didn't do himself any favors with how he threw it.
Right. It looked like they weren't on the same page or something. Like Daniels was throwing it inside and Pickens was expecting outside or something like that. I also felt like it was pass interference, but whatever, which I don't want to go into it too much, but the officiating, I'll just say was less than ideal, like all around.
It was horrible.
It was pretty bad.
And speaking of Pickens, frankly, when there were personal fouls, offsetting personal fouls, later in the game when it was Pickens that was in somebody's face and they were clearly John, or was it Burton? I can't remember exactly.
No, it was Pickens. Yeah, you're right.
It was Pickens? Okay. Because I remember thinking, gosh darn it, Pickens, because we keep hearing the maturity level of Pickens needs to elevate because he's such a young kid, but he keeps making little middle mistakes. And I remember thinking to myself, gosh darn it. And then they showed the replay, and I was like, that was how was that offsetting? Are you kidding me? He didn't do anything.
He got punched in the face by the Cincinnati player. I mean, or shoved, slapped, whatever, which don't hit people with helmets on, but whatever.
Yeah, seriously. But I will say this. I was proud of Pickens in that moment because I ate my words. As soon as I saw the replay, I was like, man, that's crap. He really handled himself really well because he could have responded and it could have been a lot worse for both teams, frankly. But anyway,
agreed. That's a good point.
I mean, in my opinion, Pickens had his best game of the season. He saved it for a perfect time. Unfortunately, we got a big win. We got a big win over an undefeated group of 5. Obviously a bowl victory. But at the end of the day, it didn't really matter. But it's nice to have the win going into this offseason. You'd obviously rather have a win, go out on a win, than go out on a loss, like some teams in Florida. Or should I say Florida?
Yes, there's 4 L's in Florida. There's also 4 L's in Mullen. Both have 4 L's now.
Also a clown.
Yeah. I will say, as far as it doesn't matter, and I do agree. I mean, it's an exhibition, right? And it doesn't really mean anything.
Yeah, I mean, we're missing. There's a makeshift offensive line. Everybody's opted out.
We were missing. Yeah, we had all the opt-outs. They were missing a couple of guys. Even they were missing their leading rusher, which I think we figured that's probably why the line moved so much Friday morning. That was we woke up to that. We're like, what's going on?
That's true.
But I'll tell you what, man. I was into this game personally. I was yelling at the television. I was scaring my dogs and my family when I was yelling at the television. I was into it. When Azeez Ojulari got the last sack to end the game, I went absolutely berserk in my house. I was all into it, man. I loved it. I was on cloud 9. I had this tweet storm. No one could bring me down. I was so happy. It was a great day. It's a New Year's Six Bowl. It was a lot of fun, and you could tell it mattered to the players too, right? On both sides, everybody was into it. Those who were there were quite into it. There was a lot of John going on, and it was pretty chippy. Everyone was into that game. You could tell. It was not even when we had a bit of a slow start, it never felt like keep going back to the 18 Sugar Bowl against Texas. You could tell we had a lot of guys that didn't want to be there. I never had that sense at all in this game.
Yeah, no, certainly not. I will say that there were points though where I did feel like that. Like, all right, so let me back up. I want to go on the record because I told my buddy that lives in my neighborhood that I would retract my statements. They were not the Trash Pandas; they were the Cincinnati Bearcats. I'm giving them a lot of respect. I'm putting some respect on their name. So Franco, that was for you. Um,
Nice.
but I will say that there were multiple points in the game, and then there was one specific point in particular where I was texting him, where he was whatever we call Munsoning for the opposite team, because
Right.
the
Right.
entire game, the entire game, I was giving him props. I was giving the Bearcats props. I was like, dude, y'all are going to win this. This is ridiculous. Like, I don't understand why we're not playing very well. Our defense is not playing very well. Our offense can't help our defense out when they needed
Mm-hmm.
to, we needed to stay on the field. We kept having 3-and-outs and all that kind of stuff. Like, we couldn't convert. Like, if you'd have told me before the game that we would have converted our first third down in the third quarter, I would have said we are going to get absolutely destroyed in this game if that were the case.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
here we are. We came back, and it was literally a comeback in every sense of the word, from a defensive standpoint as well as an offensive standpoint. And it really was a game of second half adjustments or whatever it was that we did, because
Mm-hmm.
after the third quarter, like, things were dire. It was 21, what was it, 21-10 or
It
something?
was
Yeah, 20,
21-10 at the end of the third quarter. Yep.
21-10. At that point, I was really, really, really in a dark spot in terms of Munsoning.
Yeah.
And in particular, when they showed a look on the sideline of our players sitting down on the bench, like they do the sideline, and there was nobody talking. Their
Yeah.
faces were completely blank. There was there was just no energy whatsoever. And that's when I was like, oh my gosh, they are over it. They want to just go. They want to go home. But clearly, that
I
wasn't the case.
Yeah, I think again, and I'll just compare to the Texas game. The Texas game, and it wasn't everyone, but I think there were many, and as Kirby has basically admitted it, like that they didn't want to be there, right? This one, I don't feel like it was that. I think this was like they wanted to be there. I don't think they realized how good Cincinnati was going to be, and then when they were that good, I think there was some dejection a bit, right? And then they were able to turn it around. And I mean, you talk about second half adjustments. I mean, in the first half, I think we were texting a lot about with their offense, what Ritter was doing with this like backyard football, like the touchdown pass that he threw right before the end of the first half,
Oh
which
man, the
was
backyard
an amazing
football.
play. But I mean, he ran back like 20 yards behind line of scrimmage, like he's playing Tecmo Bowl or something, and then launched it for a touchdown. I was like, oh my gosh, you got to be kidding me! And I think that's kind of what we talked about at halftime was we've got to figure this out. You got to be able to shut that down. I mean, their second half offense consisted of one play. They had that 79-yard touchdown run, and that's all they did the entire second half. I mean, the defense absolutely was lights out in the second half. And as the third quarter is ending, and I was the same boat as you were, I was totally freaking out, Munsoning. And then the fourth quarter opens with that Azeez Ojulari strip sack, and then it was on, right? I mean, that really just ignited the team. I mean,
Yeah,
that totally, completely changed the game. Completely changed the game.
yeah. I think that's what I was. I think that it was the strip sack that kind of sparked everything. And there were a couple of plays like that where the ball bounces a little bit differently for both teams. Like, Daniels had a fumble. We had a fumble. They had a fumble. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
if the ball bounces one way or the other into a different player's hands or whatever, um, that could have really been a game changing swing for sure.
Yeah.
In terms
Yeah.
of
And then,
turnovers.
well, I'll tell you what was another game changing swing was their left tackle getting ejected for targeting at the end of the first half, number 55, because 51 could not. The guy that came back, I'm sorry, I don't know the name, sorry. But 55 got ejected, 51 came in, and he could not handle Ojulari. I'll say the other left tackle, I don't think he could handle him either, but he was at least getting away with all of his holds. He was
Yeah.
holding Ojulari every play, and it did not get called once. So hey, if they're not going to call it, keep doing it. Like I'm not going to fault the kid. Again, ACC refs, whatever. But like 51 couldn't even hold him. I mean, and he went nuts. I mean, it was like Marcus Howard in the Sugar Bowl, because we had kind of compared this to that game. That's the only thing I guess that was kind of like it. Aziz Ojolari had kind of a Marcus Howard type game. Um, Otherwise, it felt a lot more like the 2005 Sugar Bowl that was in Atlanta, the Splenda Bowl. I think is what Tony Waller calls it. Um,
Splendid.
the game felt like that, except for the fact that we won. Um, we're like they got out, and then we kind of came back, and there was even a fake punt that worked against us, just like in that game.
Oh my
Uh,
gosh.
I will say that 2005 one was like totally telegraphed. Like the punter was like 5 yards, like he was like lined up like a quarterback. It was like they're going to run a fake. This one, they at least like they had been setting it up all game with their kind of rugby style kicks, and he just kept running. It was actually set up very well. Like they didn't tip it. I didn't feel like before the snap or anything. It was well executed. And like when that
Well,
happened, I was like, "Oh my gosh, it's the 2005 Sugar. This is West Virginia all over again." We're not that play is going to change. Eat enough clock that we're going to run out of time, and thankfully we didn't. So
I would like Kirby Smart to take note of that play because I really feel like that we should have been ready for something like that. Even though, like, when I say ready, I don't mean like, oh my gosh, we know they're going to do this. Kind of like
yeah, yeah,
he had the foresight and knowledge to do the fake punt or fake field goal or whatever, fake punt against Alabama with Fields and all that. Like he knew that there was something that they did that they could exploit. Like, okay, if on the flip side, like this is where I feel like that if you're in a game, you know that your team has momentum. Like, why even like go into some sort of return game? Like, just take the fair catch. You know you're going to get good field position because
hmm
like that was the thing that I was really surprised about. I was like, golly, a lot could have gone wrong there had that not been successful. Like that was a really ballsy call, and I feel like it
it
was
was.
it was a desperation call in my opinion because I feel like that they knew that if they gave us the ball back, that there was going to be real problems for them down the stretch. And
Yeah,
I think that in that scenario, we should have just played punt safe and like just played it so you're not getting this first down on the ground, dude. Like you're just
yeah.
not
I'm not.
ever going to do it because
Yeah,
they were kicking from like their own 20 or something like that.
yeah. I don't even. Yeah, I'm not sure exactly where they were at, but I mean, yeah. I don't think like we weren't trying to block it or anything. Obviously, I don't know how much so much we had to return on or whatever, but I mean, I don't know. Good call. Like they got they got us with that one.
Yeah, so if you have a rugby style kicker and
Yeah,
you know that he's going to be out moving, you just have to recognize, like, okay, we really got burned on that play. So in the same scenario moving forward, we need to be on the watch out for something like that.
right, right. Um, I'm looking at the play. Yeah, like the play chart. That was in the fourth quarter, right? When they had the fake punt. Am I
Yeah,
getting that
that's
right?
that's what I actually have the play up right now. It was at the 11-minute and 50-second mark in the fourth quarter. The punter was
Okay.
literally standing on their 20-yard line when he took the ball.
Hmm.
So he took the ball from. This is the other thing. Like they only had like 5 yards to
There
gain
it
or
is.
something like that. It was
Yeah,
fourth
it
and
was
it was fourth and
fourth and
six.
six at their 29 is what I
So
found it. Okay.
so the gutsy part of this is like this is where I say like had we had the safety, had we had like the like basically don't send anybody for the return back.
Hmm. Yeah.
And it does to a certain extent look like that we had some guys there because it looks like
Yeah.
it's number 4. If he goes to the left, that play is going to get blown up. But we have a couple of guys out on the right hand side, but it just doesn't look like we had enough guys to cover the two guys that are back. The two back guys or whatever.
Yeah.
When the ball snapped, those guys run right and we just don't have enough guys there. And I feel like that's something that we should just be on the lookout for. And that's all I'm saying because
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
he basically ran, 15, 20 yards or something like that to get that first down, which is just absolutely
Hmm.
mind-boggling because if we tackle him anywhere short of the first down, it's like gimme points to us in a really tight game.
Right. Yeah. And at that point, it was 21-16. I mean, if they don't get that, I mean, we're inside their 35, in business. Which I don't
Yeah.
know, like if you want to keep going with some kind of coaching things, actually, like I I actually didn't like when we went for it on 4th and 1 in the third quarter. So we were down 21-10. There's like over 3 minutes left in the third quarter, and we went for it on 4th and 1 at their 25. I mean, that's a chip shot field goal. If you kick that 21-13, then when we get that next touchdown, you're going for two to tie the game, not to get within a field goal. And like the subsequent field goal, like you're already up at that point, and then the defense is having to hang on. So I don't know. Like if I'm going to gripe about anything coaching wise, that was my gripe. I don't know. I'm super conservative too. Like I was just like take the points, and like there was a lot of time left in that game. I felt like we should have kicked that field goal, but again, like the 4th and 1 play called, I would say the call worked, right? Like Jackson was open. It's just a bit of a misfire from JT Daniels on that play. So I don't know,
Yeah.
but I wanted to kick that.
I mean, if he throws that ball outside, it's a completion, and number one, Kyrgios doesn't have to twist his knee basically all the way around. Which, holy
Yeah.
cow, like we dodged a bullet there.
Oh,
When he,
I totally thought he was done.
I
My
was
surgery. Yeah.
shocked to see him fielding the punt. The next time around, I was like,
Yeah.
wait, did Kyrgios just field that punt? Like,
Yeah. Same here.
I thought he
Same
just
here.
tore his ACL and we were done for next season too.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Same here. Um, the other two things, coaching wise, I guess for us were, I guess, quick. Did you agree with going for two when we were down 20? When we cut it to 21-16, do you go for two there to get to 3 points,
I don't know. I
or
mean,
kick it?
if I was really surprised we didn't just kick the field goal, but like at the end of the day,
Yeah, it ended up not really making any difference at all.
yeah,
But
I can't. My brother-in-law and I were watching the game together, and I remember he said something about it, like, you know, like a couple of plays later, once we got to a point where I was like, well, let's do the math here. Like, what happened there? I was like, oh, okay, well, the way that things turned out, like, had we gotten two, then it would have made more sense, I guess. But like, it didn't end up hurting us. Is kind of my point there.
yeah, yeah, right, yeah, because we kicked a field goal later that would have tied it, and we ended up being down two. So that was the difference there. Um, the big one that everyone seems to be talking about and saying that we totally messed up was not going for it, right, on our second to last possession. So we had the ball. We were down 21-19. There was 3 minutes and 7 seconds left in the game, and we called a timeout and then punted. And the one thing I keep seeing people say that like that Kirby was indecisive and called the timeout to decide whether to punt or whether to go for it. And I like hard disagree there. I mean, the timeout was called almost instantly after McIntosh was tackled. For whatever reason, he decided to call that timeout. I mean, my opinion is he called the timeout to stop the clock, to preserve time on the clock. I'm not sure like that's the right thing to do either. Like, I would say there, like you should just rush the punt team out there and save that timeout for when the other team is trying to run the clock down. But I don't know. I didn't mind it just the way our defense was playing. I didn't really think twice about punting there. I felt like we could get the ball back, and we did. It worked out, but I don't know. I guess the analytics say go for it there, but um, I guess I don't question it so much.
Part of me was hoping that he would have gone for it, but
Yeah,
yeah, part of me feels like that. I mean, we had gone for it already. Like, I mean, there were plays all over the field for JT. Like,
yeah,
the fact that everybody, we had how many different receivers. I mean, obviously you wouldn't have done it in that situation, but like we had a bunch of different receivers. Like we had Pickens had a 51-yard catch. Arian Smith had a 55-yard catch. Kyrgios Jackson had a 42-yard catch. Darnell Washington, 38 yards. Kendall Milton had a 22-yard reception. Like
yeah,
we were like, at one point I texted my neighbor. I was like, you know, he was like, he messaged me and was like, the long ball's there all day, it seems like. And I was like, yeah, let's just throw it deep every play. Like, it's like the antithesis of everything that happened throughout the season was we keep throwing the ball deep. Why do we keep throwing the ball deep? And it was because we don't have a quarterback. Well, it turns out that if you have a quarterback that can throw the ball 50 yards down the field on a frozen rope on a dime ish, I'll say ish.
yeah. Yeah.
To throw a catchable ball downfield 50 yards, like to me, that's a win-win there. Like, so why not keep doing it if it was working? So I don't know. Obviously, they wouldn't have thrown it 50 yards, but like I said, I mean, he's able to check down. He's shown the ability to get the open receiver. We had a fourth down call that clearly should have worked, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I kind of would have loved to have seen us go for it and show a
Yeah.
little bit of their head coach, like Fickle. I can't remember how to
Yeah,
pronounce
that's
his
right.
name.
Fickle.
Fickle. Their head coach in the post game press conference mentioned this. He was like, he caught a lot of flack for that pass play that Tyreek Stevenson broke up, which we'll get to that in a second. But
Yeah.
he caught a lot of flack for, like, why did you guys throw there? Give them a chance to call time, or it stopped the clock kind of thing. Like, why did you
Yeah.
guys throw it there? And he was like, well, that was the read or whatever. The play was there basically. We
Yeah.
want to play to win. Like, and that was their mentality all game long. It seemed like they were playing to win. Like, they went for it where the punter had to run 20 yards to convert a
Yeah.
fourth down to save the game or whatever. So
Yeah.
like, I mean, their coach clearly was playing to win and not playing to lose or not lose or whatever.
Yeah.
I kind of respect that, man. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I mean, again, like they're the group of five team trying to prove their worth, prove that their undefeated record had some merit. I mean, they had nothing to lose, right? I mean,
right.
yeah, I feel like that's the way they should go. I will say, like, maybe part of it is like they kind of bailed us out. And again, heat of the moment, I didn't so much notice this, even though they were like calling it out on the broadcast, but I was just like in my own world of freaking out and munsoning. Like their last series with the ball, like they could have run a lot more time off the clock. They were snapping the ball with like 10 seconds left on the play clock consistently when the clock was running. I think they did that twice. So you do that twice, that's 20 seconds right there that they could have run off the clock. So they kind of bailed us out there. The third and two throw, like, yeah, I mean, it was certainly there. And I think Ritter just didn't quite, I don't recall if like someone was in his face or whatnot, because he didn't quite get enough under it. Because the guy was really open, but you said we talk about it later. Let's go ahead and talk about it right now. I mean, because Stevenson got the start right in the shuffled secondary, and had some struggles early. And there was a lot of stuff on Twitter that I saw about that and such. So I don't know. It just like really feel good moment, awesome moment for him to be the guy to have the presence of mind, have the realization to totally peel off of his responsibility and make, I mean, one of I don't know. You could say it's the most important play of the game. I mean, it's certainly up there. That, the field goal, and then the strip sack, or something for the Aziz did. or certainly the plays of the game, right?
Right. So Tyreek, I got your back, Georgia fan Stevenson. Let me just save your season here, guys. Like,
Yeah,
that was a game saver, because if he catches that, number one, if he catches it, the way that the play was, I guess, designed or whatever, if Stevenson just sticks with his man, plays his assignment, that's a situation where I feel like that he showed the potential for what we could have down the road with him at the position on the field. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
he played his man, he played his assignment to a point where he said, "Okay, there's nothing going on with this guy. Let me put my head up and see what's going on. Oh crap, that kid's wide open." And
yeah,
to have the wherewithal to just like, okay, well, the chances of him catching the ball, I'll at least be able to tackle him. I can't say that, or project that he was thinking these things, but obviously he left his man. Had the ball actually gone to his man, he could have come back and tackled him. But
yeah,
the bigger threat was the guy dancing wide open behind everybody. So let me just take off and go after it. One of my buddies was like, "Oh, it's really close to pass interference," and yeah, it kind of was. And frankly, I think that coaching wise, we probably would have wanted him to turn around
yeah,
to try to catch the ball, because frankly, he probably could have caught that ball if he'd turned around really quickly. But as it was, he batted down the pass and changed the game.
Yeah, I mean, he got his hands up. Didn't I mean? I felt like I don't know. He kind of peeled off a little bit because he could, if he had kept running at the speed he was running at, he would have run through the guy, and that totally would have been interference. But to slow down, get the hands up, hit the ball, before hitting the guy, I think was the difference there. Oh, that was awesome. And again, just like a super feel good story with the struggles he had early. For it to be him to make that play was awesome. It was I don't know, that was a special moment. It's really cool.
Yeah.
I know, like overall the defense. I mean, there was a lot of shuffling just with the guys out. Someone we didn't talk about that I did want to call out was Brinney. I thought he had a great game. Had a bunch of tackles for loss, and we got to see Adam Anderson making an impact. Nolan Smith, kind of like we thought we would. But Brinney was someone that I know we didn't mention in the pregame. That was awesome.
So I will tell you the Brittany, like I said, I was messaging my Bearcat friend. But Brittany, he was like, yeah, who is that guy? I was like, well, he's a backup. Yes.
Yeah.
He hasn't really played a whole lot.
Yeah.
All right. So I'll say that's a little anecdote that I have about Brittany. But Nakobe Dean, let's talk about Nakobe Dean. There was a point in the game when Nakobe Dean, frankly, I don't understand why Cincinnati was taking. I don't understand why Cincinnati was taking so long to snap the ball, because they had a guy on that was completely uncovered because there was I think it was a linebacker. There's a linebacker that was out of position, and you could see Nakobe Dean absolutely lose his mind, like Kirby Smart type lose your mind. Like he was almost, I feel like he was wanting to spank him like an uncle, like, boy, get your butt over there. You know what I mean? And then, and then after the guy realized, it was like, oh shoot. Yeah. And then he needed to go over there. You could see Nakobe Dean be like, dang.
Yeah. And well, that was one of the things that I did mention. I was kind of worried about not having Monty Rice. So with Monty Rice being kind of the quarterback of the defense, getting guys lined up. And how would we do without him? And man, Nakobe Dean stepped up to the task to kind of play that role. That was awesome.
When I saw that, I felt my heart just take flight for what Nakobe Dean has in store for us in the future. And I tweeted out, I was like, inject Nakobe Dean yelling at his players to get into position into my veins. And Monty Rice actually liked it. And I was like, oh my God, that's exactly
that's right.
That's exactly what I was looking for. Well, I mean, not that I was looking for him or whatever, but he replaced Monty Rice in that moment and showed that he can quarterback this defense. And that has to be a bright, shining moment for us in terms of how we look to next year.
Right. And to clarify, Monty Rice actually hit the like button on your tweet, right? That's what
he did.
What was that happening, right? Yes, that was awesome. Did. Okay.
He hit the like button. He hit the like button.
Smash that like button, and Monty Rice did.
Yeah.
Let's see. I had a couple. So we talked about the fake punt on special teams, but special teams. I guess wanted to just call out two positive things. So obviously, Jackpot was awesome. So he was
talk about that.
3 for 3 on field goals. If I had my way, he would have been 4 for 4 because, like I said, I felt like we should have kicked another one, but whatever. And I mean rewatching, it's crazy how fast everything happens, right? Because we didn't have a timeout, they didn't have a timeout, so there's no time for this. Are they or aren't they going to try to ice the kicker or any of that stuff? The field goal team went out on the field, got set up, snapped, and kicked it. It was all really fast. The camera, the broadcast almost didn't catch the snap, because they had a tight shot of Podlesny going in, and then they flipped the camera to behind right before the snap, so they almost missed the snap. And I mean, he drilled that thing. There was never any doubt. I mean, when it left his foot, or at least left to right, I guess my depth perception is awful. So unless it wasn't going to be long enough, but I mean, he boomed that thing.
He drilled it. I think it was. So I think I saw someone say Hot Rod had the longest field goal in the Rose Bowl, and we need to talk about what his nickname actually is. But we'll roll with J-Pod for right now. But
Jackpod.
Sorry. uh, he has the longest field goal in the Peach Bowl.
That's awesome.
That was the longest field goal in the Peach Bowl. So I think that that's really cool. Obviously he's a first timer out there. So
Yeah.
I mean,
He's still a
he
walk on.
walk on. I think he said it was a dream come true. Obviously, so like, and he had a close like that first field goal that he kicked was really close. Like he
It
almost missed
was.
it.
Yep.
For him to come out like you said, super quick, super fast. Like obviously a young kid. So like, hats off, kid. Like that's
Yeah.
all. What else can you say?
Well, and apparently that was his first ever game winner. Like not just college, like ever. Like he's never kicked a game winning field goal before, like in high school or anything either.
Right.
So that's pretty cool. I don't know.
That is
Like
pretty cool.
I think of like my nerves like standing over a putt that means absolutely nothing, like when I'm just playing golf with my friends. Like I don't know. The nerves that these guys have to get out there and nail that kick is boggles my mind. I
So
did want to oh go ahead.
I was just gonna say, so my son's a goalkeeper. It's kind of like the goalkeepers. Like all
Mm-hmm.
goalkeepers are head cases. All kickers are head cases. Like
Yeah.
you just have to have a special kind of persona to be those type of people.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, if you look back at like the kickers that I think of at Georgia are all kind of like that, right? So you got Hot Rod has got a bit of a personality. When we were in school, Billy Bennett, he was an interesting character. Those guys both also former soccer guys, so I don't know. Maybe you can relate with them a little bit more.
Former soccer guys, yeah, exactly. Most of the
um,
kickers are though.
yeah, that's true. I also did want to say so, and this is like me and my Munsoning, and like I'm like a horrible person to watch games with because like I'm just like freaking out. Like I could hardly celebrate because I was just yelling at the TV, "Get off the field! We're gonna get a penalty!" There was still 2 seconds on the clock, and I was just screaming at the TV. Oh, now we got to kick off from 15 yards further back. Oh, this is a nightmare! Like, I'm like freaking out, and
Got state troopers on the field.
get the state troopers up the field
Get
for
the
God's sake.
students off the field.
So like that happens. The kickoff though, by which I believe Camarda kicks off, the kickoff from 15 yards back. I don't know if he was trying to do it, but like where it like went right over the one guy's head and landed like in between everyone, and then just the way that was executed could not have been any better. It was absolutely perfect, and
It
you know,
basically ended the game. Like it ended
yeah,
all
exactly,
hope
yeah,
because I think
yeah.
like obviously so he kicked it over the guy's head. They ended up picking the ball up at like the 1 yard line or something like that.
Yeah, he like just took a knee right there to not run it, like to be able to run a play. Because otherwise, I mean,
Exactly.
if he picks it up not on a knee, the clock starts right, and then the game's over. So he pretty much
Right.
had to do that. That was kind of his only choice at that point.
Right. So that effectively ended the game. So like
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, talk about demoralizing. Like, oh, geez. And then so like
yeah. I know.
I think I even messaged out like once they were going to have to line up, I was like, can we just send 6 defensive backs out there and just like
Yeah,
don't even
yeah.
worry about the
Well,
linemen?
and we had yeah.
But thank God they sent Aziz out there.
Holy cow! I mean, he got to him so fast. I mean, it was like I, I, I guess I would say it was kind of like Davin Bellamy's game-ending sack against Notre Dame in
Exactly.
17. It reminded me of that. Yeah, I had the Marcus Howard thing that I was saying earlier, but it didn't remind me of any of the Howard sacks from that Hawaii game. It reminded me of Bellamy. Just the speed rush around the edge, went right around the guy. It was awesome. And we didn't send, I don't know how many defensive backs we sent back there, but one of them was the count. I just have to mention that again.
One
That
of
was
them
just
was
awesome.
the
I
count.
don't know.
Yeah.
I just love it.
Very true. Very
um,
true.
One thing on a lower note, I did want to say this was an awful thing, but really cool thing that Del McGee did. They had a lot of sideline shots of Del McGee wearing Cook's jersey. So James Cook's dad passed away before the game. I think the day before, right? And I don't know, just I love Del McGee. He seems to have just a really good relationship with all of his guys. And that was really cool for him to do that. And then just to see in the post game how many guys, the cameras in their face and just kept saying, this is for James, this is for James, this is for Cook. We love you, number 4. Everyone's holding up 4 fingers. That was why. I don't know, just obviously a very sad situation, and prayers to the entire Cook family. I know they're going through a lot right now. But I don't know, just a good gesture, I guess I would say, from McGee. And you can see the special bond that he has with his players, that all the players have with each other there. So
Yeah, I'd be honest. I saw pictures of it on Twitter. I missed it during the broadcast. I don't know that I ever saw those moments on the screen from the broadcast. I must not have been. It's probably when I was maybe yelling at a kid or something. But
you're munching. It happens.
Something like that. I was probably refilling a beverage or so. But yeah, no, I didn't see that on the film. But obviously when they had the pictures after the game made a whole lot of sense. I was like, oh wow, that's really cool.
Yeah, that was cool. I am looking through my notes to make sure I talked about everything I had jotted down. I think I did.
So here, did we talk about special teams not being so special except for the win?
Well, so we talked about the good things. At this point, I almost want to leave that out. We talked about, because we talked about the the fake punt that we gave up. There was also the shank punt.
The shank punt was a game changer.
Yeah, early. Yeah, I mean that. So again, I will say this: if you think about it with that, right? Their 2 of their touchdowns were of quick things, right? So their first touchdown drive was immediately following that shank punt. They had a short field, and then the touchdown in the third quarter was the drive was, I think, 2 or 3 plays or something, right? With the 79-yard touchdown run.
Yeah, which
just kind of gives a testament to the defense, right? Oh,
yeah. No, you're right. You're right. I didn't even think about it. I didn't think about it like that. That there were 2 real quick hits, and frankly, there were the interception in the end zone. Obviously, we were driving, and then we had some drives kind of stall out inside the red zone, kind of thing. We had to kick field goals, but the run play, we highlighted this for Cincinnati in terms of what happens when teams played Cincinnati. Was that they had defensive backs just crash down on plays, and we did see that a few times. We had guys over pursue the quarterback, and they could have had a sack had they just waited for him to commit to a direction or whatever, as opposed to trying to just chase him down. But then on that touchdown run, seeing crash down way quick, way too hard. I feel like that's going to be something that's going to cause him to be running some stadium steps at some point or whatever. But he definitely caused that play. Had he just stood back, he would have been in position to make the tackle. But as soon as he went down and got washed out of the play in that soup down there on the line, he was off to the races, obviously. So.
It was exactly what it was. The funny thing was when we talked about in the preview, you were like, see, these are the kinds of things that we're not going to do that these other teams are doing. And this is how they're scoring so many points. So it's whoops.
Dope.
But it happened just a handful of times. Overall, the defense was pretty stout.
Yeah, and let's talk about that for a second. I was wondering, just overall, how did we do, on average or whatever, basically. So when I was looking at their season averages, so they averaged, let's see, so he was averaging 8 yards a toss. Basically every time he picks up the ball, he was averaging 8 yards. And his quarterback rating throughout the year was 152. He had precipitously less, quarterback rating, and his yards per pass, I think, were 5 yards per pass. 5.6. He had 5.6 yards per pass. He only threw for 206.
Is that per completion, per attempt?
Per completion or whatever. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
He had 206 yards on 24 of 37. 24 of 37 passing for an average of 5.6, which is crazy. Obviously, he had no interceptions, which frankly was a surprise because I actually thought that we would get him. I thought we would get him a couple of times. But when you're
Yeah.
only throwing the ball 5 yards, that doesn't leave a whole lot of opportunity for interceptions. And I
That
feel like
was
that's
interesting too, right? Like, yeah, he didn't, because like in the stuff we had kind of seen beforehand, he did throw a lot of deep balls, and there wasn't quite as much of that. I mean, so they get like let's look at their season statistics again. Like, they were averaging 451 yards of offense a game, and what did we give up? It was like, I mean, a lot less than that. 305. So they only had 305 yards of offense. So we held them 150 yards under their average, for the season. So
yeah. I was about to say like this was probably like their lowest output game, which I mean I think we kind of expected that. We just
yeah,
didn't
we did.
expect we just didn't expect our offense to get as bogged down. And so like we
Yeah,
both kind of thought that they were going to put points on the board. There was not going to be keeping them off the score line, but I don't think that we anticipated them. I don't think we anticipated them giving our offense as much of a problem as it did.
yeah. And I mean, I'll throw out a hot take there. I said it. Well, I don't know that I said it on here, but I did feel it. I've said it. I've seen it on Twitter. You can look at my Twitter feed or whatever. Like, I still I think they should have been in the playoff. Like now, like yes, they couldn't they couldn't beat us, and we're not a playoff team. But I mean, look at what happened to Notre Dame. Again, I'm big, my thing as conference champions, and another discussion for another day. But I still would have put them in at 4. But whatever, that's me. They impressed me. They impressed me. I got a lot of respect for them. A lot more obviously now than I did beforehand. They're a good football team. They're good, man.
Yep. So here's the thing. So this while we've been talking, I've been kind of looking at this because it started with me looking at the box score and the stats and all that kind of stuff and seeing that they were only averaging 5.6 yards per pass, and I was like, wow, that seems really low. So how does that compare with what they had been doing, previously? So it's definitely lower. So they threw for less yards per game. He was averaging like 240 yards a game. So he threw for less yards per game than he did. He threw less attempts or whatever. He had a lower completion percentage slightly, but obviously like it was a lower completion percentage. They rushed for substantially less than what they're used to rushing. So like,
Yeah,
I mean, that's all you can ask for. They scored. They were averaging like almost 40 points a game or something like that. So like our defense did really well. Like at the time,
yeah,
like while we were running through the game, like you could feel that way. But I feel like that our defense wasn't quite as strong because they were out there for so long and long stretches. They had long, pretty decently long drives. Whereas on our side of
yeah,
things, we either came off the field quickly or we came off the field quickly because we scored so darn quickly or because we stormed down the field on 50-yard and 40-yard passes here and there. So like,
yeah,
I think that there's an element of tiredness that they came into, and they're like, the defense got frustrated, especially in the third quarter when we got shut out, where it was like, come on offense, like do something. Come
yeah,
on.
yeah. I was
Like
like,
that,
yeah,
like
like
that
feeling for the
meme,
defense.
that
I was like the
meme.
defense. Yeah,
I was just
the
saying, like
what?
that meme where it's like the little kid is poking a dead body, like, come on, do something. You know what I mean?
Right, right. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I was like feeling bad for Aziz and company in the third quarter for sure. I mean, because again, one play aside, the second half, they totally shut them down.
Like from a statistical standpoint, like we had no business winning this game. Like at a certain point, like everyone thought that we were going to lose this game. So like the fact that we won it was just over and above. Like the win probability for us at that point was like we had like 8% chance of winning the game, and we did. Like, when was the last time you had a game like that where you felt that way with another coach other than Kirby Smart?
Yeah, I think it was at the. So what was the point? It was basically when the last time they had the ball or on their drive before the field goal, before our game winning field goal on second down for them. What did I say? They had a 92% win probability.
Yeah, you said
Just-
92. You said 92%, but I can't get the graph to
I've
even
got it.
go.
I've got it right now. 2nd and 11 for Cincinnati at their 31 with 143 left in the game. They had a 92.6% chance of winning, according to ESPN's win probability. That is nuts that we won at that point.
I mean, that's 93% basically, like 93% chance that they were going to win the game. So we had a 7% chance of winning the game, and we freaking did it.
Am I crazy? Like, and I talk about that I'm Munson and I'm Munsoning and all this kind of stuff. Like, I didn't feel like we only had a 7% chance right there for me personally. I don't know on 2nd and 11 because like I think we had just had that might have been one of Brinny's plays. I don't know, like the first down where they had a loss, or maybe that was a sack. I don't know what it was, but like,
right, is there a did you post the YouTube link for the game yet?
For the full game?
Yeah.
Yeah, I uploaded it, but Disney flagged it for copyright and blocked it. Just that one video, and it actually did not count as a strike. It wasn't a strike, but it can't be viewed. All you got to do is go to ESPN. I mean, you can watch the full game on there.
Okay, that's what I was going to do.
3 versions. They've got the regular version, the Command Center version, and like the Skycam version.
I don't know. I find it very fascinating, and I think that it just underscores the whole like dynamic of Mark Richt versus Kirby Smart.
Yeah, so I've got the drive chart for their last full drive right before we got the ball back. So they got the ball with 2:59. They actually got a first down, right?
Yeah.
So they run
so that I feel like is probably playing into it, right? So they were able to move the ball on us.
Yeah. So they had a 5-yard play. It was both. Sorry, a Ritter pass for 5 yards, then a second 5, a Ritter keeper. He went out of bounds. So that gets a 1st and 10. Then on first down, Wyatt. Okay, so it was a Devontae Wyatt, stop for a loss on a running play. But still, after that play, as they're snapping the ball, and we called timeout. So that's what it was. So we tackled them for a 1-yard loss. They called timeout with 1:47 left. At that point, according to ESPN, Cincinnati had a 92 whatever I said, 92.6% chance of winning the game. That was their highest win probability. So, yeah, so that is weird. Again, like for me, I don't know. I guess I just had the confidence the way our defense had been playing, and I say I'm Munson, but I don't know. I guess I have this like crazy hope always. Like at the end of games, I was like, this is gonna happen. We're gonna do this. I get the opposite, like when we get the, when we had the penalty after the field goal, but
right. No,
but it didn't feel like they had a 92%. But yeah, that's the kind of thing. This is like total opposite of what usually happens to us. I guess we did to them what usually happens to us, right? We're usually the ones with a 92% chance to win and then lose.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. I don't know. I think that was just kind of crazy when I saw those numbers when I went to go and look at the stats for the game for the review session. I was just struck by how drastic a shift it was in a matter of minutes.
Yeah,
which just speaks to our ability to keep to keep our head in the game, to even put us into a position. Like you go back and so like that 92% also kind of factors into like they were driving and frankly had a chance to win the game. They probably should have won the game because they had a guy wide open but just couldn't get it.
I mean they convert that third and 2. I mean, the game was over. We were out of timeouts.
Mm-hmm.
Game ends there.
But that's the kind of play. That's the kind of play that Kirby. This is the kind of game that Kirby needs in order to get over that hump. Like championship teams win ugly games, and this was an ugly game for us for whatever reason. It didn't feel like that. Like looking at the stats, like we held them in check. Like as I was looking through those numbers, like their season totals, like we freaking like shut them down. Like yes, they got 21 points. Yes, they got some but like you look at their stat lines and you look at their actual numbers, like we actually beat them down pretty badly. If we didn't beat ourselves, then I think it is a bigger blowout. You know what I mean? Like,
Well, so think about it this way too. Like if you look at our score predictions for the game, you had 43-31 us. I had 31-28 us. We held them to 10 fewer points than you predicted and 7 fewer points than I predicted, right? I mean, like the defense played really well. Like we talked about, right? Like the second half, they had that one play, the 79-yard
mm-hmm.
touchdown run, and then another touchdown was on a short field off the shank punt. I mean, you take those two out, those are kind of the outliers. So yeah, I mean, the defense really was lights out. It just took the offense a while to get going. And again, you got to give their defense credit as far as that goes, right? Like again, their defense so far like exceeded what I was expecting them to do.
But yeah, like the win probability in that scenario is just kind of so strange to me. But obviously, we pulled it out. So like, if you'd have told me before the game that Cincinnati was going to score 21 points, I would have told you that we would win this game. If you had said, "Hey, John, I'm going to give you, I'm going to give you one hint on the game. They score 21 points. Do we win that game or do we lose this game?" I would imagine and wager that most Georgia fans would probably say that we win this game.
Yeah, but if on the flip side, if I gave you one tip and said Georgia's going to score 24, what would you have thought?
I mean, obviously, like I'm a homer at heart, so I'm sitting here thinking, like, if you told me, I was like, oh well, we only scored 24.
You're gonna at a minimum, you're gonna be Munsoning hardcore, right?
Exactly. I'm like, that's probably a close game, but yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. Yeah, it's just interesting to think about things like that.
Yeah,
like,
yeah, for sure. No, but that's what I'm saying. Like that to me, though, that shows how well the defense played. Right? That like before the game, if you had said Georgia's only going to score 24 points, you'd have been like super nervous, which I guess you should have been with the 92% probability of them winning late in the game. Yeah, man, it was. I don't know. I guess all of this is kind of like maybe just leads into like for me again, like why I was so excited. And I guess like the one other thing, like, and I sent this out as a tweet, like the third quarter ended, like I was super bummed, right? I mean, we're down 21-10. We hadn't been able to get anything going offensively. We've turned the ball over on downs in the third quarter, on that 4th and 1. And I was just like so down. And I said to myself, you know what? I didn't even know we were going to get any football this year. We've had football. We got to play all of our regular season games except one. We're in a bowl game. There's only 15 minutes left of this entire season. I'm going to enjoy every second.
Let's just enjoy
it. So I said that, and then I tweeted it, and then we won. And man, did I enjoy those last 15 minutes! Like it was awesome. It was awesome. Like I don't know, it was an awesome game. I know. I like apologies to your friend. Like if he listens to this, I'm sure it's like agony or whatever from the Cincinnati perspective. But from a Georgia fan, oh man, it was awesome. It was awesome. I enjoyed every minute.
Yeah,
and like because those lows just make those highs feel so much better, and to have that whole roller coaster within the game and then win it, that was awesome.
Yeah, it was good. It was like a borderline like had we been undefeated in the Rose Bowl or something like that. Like, and we were playing in a college football playoff. Like, it had that kind of feel. Obviously not exactly, but like it had the similar feel to the Rose Bowl game.
It did. It had I was at the Rose Bowl, and like that's the greatest college football game I've ever seen in my life, right? And I cried. When we won the game, I cried. Like you can ask Stroud. I cried. He was I didn't like break down weeping, but like a tear came out. But
Stroud confirmed us with the tweets. Add us and confirm.
But like, just so not that like it was as big of a deal or felt as good or anything, but just the way the game went, like the level of like despair, I guess, to feel during the game, which I didn't feel it late. I will say that, like when they were at their highest win probability of 92%, I wasn't feeling it then, but I was feeling it when the third quarter was ending down 21-10. Right, that's when I felt it. But once we started to come back, I believed.
So what you're saying is that you felt really bad when we got shut out, but you felt really good when we shut them out.
Yes, correct. Yes, very. Yes, that's quite accurate.
Shocker. Shocker,
Shocking.
right? We got shut out in the third quarter and we completely slammed the door shut in the fourth quarter, which that's what I'm saying. Like, these are the types of wins that Nick Saban pulls out. This is the kind of thing that Nick Saban does to us all the time. Like, and
Yeah.
we have to get to a point where we win these games where it's like, not everything's going perfectly. Not everything's going as well as we had hoped. Like, we can't stay on the field to give our defense a rest. Like, but at the end of the day, we won the game.
This win was awesome. I don't know. Like I said, I rather enjoyed it. I was really high coming off the win. I was like, and it made my New Year's Day. The rest of the day I was just on cloud nine for the rest of the day. It was awesome. What I saw after our game at night certainly surprised me. I think Alabama and Notre Dame went how we thought it would go.
Mm-hmm.
I thought if anyone was going to win the second game like that, it would have been Clemson, not Ohio State. That did surprise me.
Big surprise.
So I don't know that. So I guess just who you got in the championship game? You think Bama or Ohio State?
I mean, you're never going to see me bet against Bama in a situation like that with the type of team that they have. So, like, Bama never really looked bad this season. Yeah. I mean, other than, like, they didn't look bad against us, but, like, I feel like that had we had a better quarterback, that we probably would have given them a better run, a bigger run for their money than they probably would have liked. I don't know if we would have beat them, but, like, I don't see Alabama losing this game. Ohio State looked bad in several games this year, and they only played 6. So, like,
yep, yeah. I will say too. Now, the reports came out today that Waddle's back in practice. So I don't know what that means. We've had the count practice this week, and
right.
was able to play a snap. So I don't know if him practicing really means anything. If he's ready to go though, then it makes me even more lean towards Bama. But I'll go. I'm basically the same as you. Like, I'm not going to pick against Saban. I think that's about it. All
no,
it comes
sir.
down to for me.
No, sir. Like,
cool.
I feel like that they're going to be able to exploit some of the things that Clemson clearly was not able to.
Yeah. Cool, man. Well, we will. I know we'll talk at some point after that game is done. We are going to get back together and do kind of a more macro kind of season. I don't know, close out this season, kind of season review, and just talk about some kind of looking ahead, things to look for as we approach the off season. I guess we're officially now in the off season for us, but what's coming up kind of stuff. So
exactly. Well, it was definitely fun. Episode 25. So good kudos to us, and thanks for the listeners, trudging through this weird season with us.
Yeah, we picked a great year to start a podcast, right?
We weren't doing anything. We might as well do this.
All right. Awesome. Cool. All right, man. Well, we'll talk again soon and to wrap up the season.
Absolutely. Go Dogs.
Go Dogs.